Welcome to the Becoming Body Smart podcast, where we unlock the secrets of sustainable health and fitness and help you master your health habits. If you're tired of quick fixes, generic blueprints, and chasing short-term results, you're in the right place. It's time to become Body Smart.
Hello, everybody. Bright and early on a Monday morning. Except for the bright part. It's dark outside still. Darn it. It's that time of year again.
That's my favorite. I love when it's dark in the mornings.
Really? Oh,
Yeah.
I like waking up with the sun. I'm kind of a sun's up, I'm up guy.
I get that. I don't know. I think it's just like it feels more still in the morning when it's dark. And so it's like waking up with me. The earth is waking up with me.
It does feel more still in the morning, like I should still be in bed.
Accurate.
And it's dark outside.
I like
that's
that.
funny.
I like that. Well played, sir.
Oh, that's funny. All right. So the easy button. I was debating, should I say the easy button or how not to hit the hard button? I feel like I do more of that. How did I just hit the hard button on this project?
It's right next to the easy button, easy to miss.
Yeah. I think it's much larger than the easy button.
That too.
Yeah. Anyway, welcome in everybody. Mark and I have already been talking this morning, so we're already on a roll. That's funny.
I was trying to I know it's still a little bit shadowy on my face, but I was trying to, it's like, why does it look so dark? And then I realized that the screen brightness was turned all the way down on my computer.
You use the screen brightness to help illuminate, huh? I like it. That makes sense. Well, welcome in everybody. Yeah, how's everybody's weekend? Everybody have a good time? I got to get up in the woods for a little bit. That was nice. Chop some wood, things like that. It's great. We're all set for the yurts are full of wood for the winter. We'll see how the winter goes, if it's as aggressive as last winter. But yeah, pretty fun. So
I went to this pumpkin patch, and as they have the hayride or whatever, pull you on a tractor, but this one was awesome. So this guy built a pumpkin cannon, and so it'll launch them like crazy far. So he said when he was first testing it out, he wasn't sure how much pressure to do. So he did 100 PSI, which for the record, when he shoots them out and it goes like a couple hundred feet, it's 12 PSI. He said it landed up like half a mile down the road, and it was in one of his friend's lawns, and he thought just teenagers pranked him because it just exploded this pumpkin all over his lawn.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So anyway, that thing was awesome.
Yeah, you think about that, 100 PSI. That's a lot of PSI just because the pumpkin has a lot of square inches of surface, so that's fun.
Pretty impressive. And the cannon barrel, it looked like a howitzer. It was hilarious.
But it probably was almost quiet, huh?
Yeah, it was pretty quiet. It was just like poof, and then
yeah, interesting. Yeah. We used to make potato cannons.
Also cool.
Yeah, they're illegal now. They probably always were, but anyway, that's a weird aside. Let's get back on topic. The easy button. Here we go. So, we often talk the easy button, right? Do you guys remember those Staples commercials? I think it was Staples, right?
Yeah.
Where they were the easy button, right? You go to Staples and they could help you figure everything out. And that I know, clever concept. Thought that was funny. And so in life, I think a lot of us are pursuing our easy button. How do I make this easier? Uh, how do I do that? And I would argue it probably isn't really an easy button, but we tend to mash down the hard button on ourselves all the time. And so we wanted to talk this morning about some tips of how to do that, how to stop hitting the hard button maybe instead of the easy button. But I know I do this to myself all the time. I take a simple task and make it much more difficult than it ought to be. Um, and so we've got some ideas of how to make that work better. Mark, did you text me our conversation?
I didn't, but I'm just getting ready to drop.
Okay, perfect. I'm in the okay. So that I guess we often get in our own way of making good decisions or of staying on track in a way that helps us to keep moving forward. And so we wind up kind of the whole two steps forward, one step back, or even sometimes one step forward, two steps back. Um, and so here's kind of our list of the things that can help um, us stop hitting the hard button. And uh, the weeding out negative thoughts one we put first because I think that's a lot of things. People will have positive affirmations and positive things that they try to tell themselves. And I like that idea of like, um, subtraction by addition, trying to add in, like, I'm going to add in these positive things so that I stop thinking the negative things. But really, it's getting rid of the negative thoughts that is the more important part of that. The positive things we kind of will find out about ourselves as we see success. But it's those limiting beliefs that we tell ourselves that tend to be the more dangerous or more harmful thing to our progress. It's not that we didn't think enough positive things. Because I think we often will daydream like the what ifs. What if I did have this happen and what if it did go well? We'll do that and then we'll tell ourselves the negative things of like, oh, but you'll never x this, x y or z this because of this. And we start talking ourselves out of it with that negative self-talk, and it limits us so much.
Well, the way I like to think about it, and I think I've mentioned this idea on here before, is like if you're planting a garden, like obviously you want to plant flowers or vegetables or whatever it is, but if you never address the weeds or the pests, then your garden can't grow to its full capacity, right? It's always going to be kind of limping along because there's other things that are taking energy and nutrients away from the flowers or the fruit or the vegetables, right? Whatever you're trying to grow. And so look at it the same way as the negative thoughts. And it's interesting because we're the only creatures that we know of, at least, that can think about our thoughts, right? So that can take a step back and kind of view it from a different chair and like, okay, this is what I'm thinking about, right? We can observe what we're thinking. And you talk to anyone and you ask them if you had a friend that told you all of the negative things that you tend to think about yourself, would you stay friends? Like, would that be a very good friend? Well, no, I guess not.
Right. Oh yeah.
Or we're just like, yeah, I wouldn't want a friend like that. Like if my friend said those things, it'd be get away, right? Yet we tell ourselves those things all the time. And the more we tell ourselves something, the more likely we are to believe it. That's fascinating. They've done a number of studies on this, but in the research study, they presented some false facts, right? But they repeated them over and over and over and over again. And so when they later asked people to recall, like, if this thing or this thing was true, the thing that was repeated the most, even though it wasn't true, they believed to be true, right? So
The earth is
repetition
flat.
just breeds familiarity, right? And so it's the same thing with our thoughts, right? We repeat those negative thoughts again and again and again in a loop, and we often come to accept them as true. We never challenge them. We never work on countering what they're saying or looking for evidence of the opposite. We just let them run. And so it's kind of like, you know, you're on autopilot throughout your day, and you're not dealing with the negative thoughts, and so the directions are just kind of like, right? Let's crash into the ground.
Yeah.
And so I think just taking time to like just get those out of our heads sometimes, and obviously this is not something that everyone deals with. I think all of us have negative thoughts from time to time,
Totally.
but for some people it's more intense than others for a variety of reasons. And so taking time to just kind of get those out there, right? Like, what are they? What are the feelings connected to them? And is that actually true, right? Even just asking that simple question, is that really true? Is that actually true? Is there evidence that that's not true? Can help break us out of that loop and begin to pull out some of those weeds so that the positive things that we do, right? A positive affirmation or, goal setting become that much more effective. Because like Cameron said, those limiting beliefs can get in our way so much, right? We might be making great progress towards a goal, but if we tell ourselves, you know what, like, no, that's too much of a moonshot. Someone like me, they could never do that, right? Oh, I'm just not cut out for that, right? That can actually stop us from doing those things, because we'll look for evidence again of, yeah, I'm not cut out for this. I'm not good enough. There's other people better than me that should be doing this or whatever. And so really, like, that can be a big way of stop hitting the hard mode button, right? Start hitting the easy mode a little bit. And the wild thing to me is how simple it is, right? It doesn't take like hours and hours and hours. It can even be something that's 10 or 15 minutes a day, but done consistently can start to make a difference. And it's funny because it doesn't say like, oh, changing my thoughts, like, how can that really make a difference, right? It should be harder than that, right? It should be more difficult to actually start to make a change. That's way too simple. But often, like, those simple things done consistently have really big effects on the tail end.
Yeah, totally. Well, so that kind of plays into our next topic. So take off on that one, that avoid playing life on hard mode.
Yeah. Well, so of course I'm going to talk about this because I always do, and it's like my favorite thing to bring up on every call. But and this connects with the negative thoughts, right? So often we focus on things that we can't control, and we just let that kind of run away into a spiral. But when we focus on some of the things that we can control, like, am I getting consistent and quality sleep? Am I fueling myself well, right? For exercise, for activity, for recovery? Am I spending time being social, right? Connecting with other human beings? Am I getting regular exercise? Do I invest in those relationships? Do I, and this is one thing that I'm trying to work on, and Cameron even talked about how we have lock boxes for our phones, is putting our phone, or putting your phone away, and when it's time to be away, right? This is actually really interesting, and this goes back to investing in our relationships. Cameron and I went to a conference recently, and one of the things that one of the speakers said really impacted me. He said, stop robbing time from your family. And I thought that was fascinating, right? Like, the relationships that are most important, sometimes we're like, oh, I got to do this other thing, or I got to do this thing, right? And we're always spending time somewhere else other than where we are, right? Or maybe it's at work or at some other activity that we're supposed to be doing, but our mind's always somewhere else. And so, like, that can make things a lot harder, a lot more challenging, versus just, maybe putting steps or barriers in place to cue us to change our behavior. But all of those just, they make it so much easier, because when we don't get enough sleep, when we're not eating in a way to fuel our bodies well, when we're not exercising, it affects everything, right? It affects our mood. It affects how our brain functions, right? If we're not getting enough sleep, we actually don't learn as well. Our brain function the next day is less, right? We can experience that brain fog, and we tend to make decisions that put us in harder situations, right? Or that put us putting out fires all day. And so when we can make some of those simple tweaks, like, it's not this like crazy big change that we make or something revolutionary in our life, like we often think it has to be to get where we want to be. It's just like, can we do things to stop getting in our own way? And then progress is much, much quicker, right? We can exponentiate our growth by just avoiding some of the small, simple things that tend to trip us up.
Totally. Totally. It's instead of, hitting the easy button, it's like stop hitting the hard button. Right? It's kind of that idea. So one of the hard buttons that I tend to hit all the time, Shannon can attest to this, is the I can do it myself. The I am the jack of all trades, master of none button. I love a project. I love the first 3/4 of a project, especially. Very good at starting projects. Um, and so it's one of those like, well, I can do that myself. I love working on my car. So I'm actually pretty proud of myself. I just spent like, I don't know, $800, 700 something dollars on my car, fixing my car. And it's normally something I would have done on my own. But the problem would have been, had I done it on my own, that I would have spent easily $800 worth of time to do something that would have wound up being much more difficult. So even for the shop that I brought it to, the part that they were switching out was stuck on so much that it took them over 2 hours just to get the part off. So they actually probably wound up losing money on that job because it took them so much longer than what they had planned. And so I kind of felt bad for them. And anyway, but I was proud of myself because normally I would have been like, oh, I can fix that. I'll do that. I'll pull that apart on Saturday. And it would have taken my entire Saturday to do this project, which I enjoy doing, but at the same time, it would have taken me away from all the other things that I enjoy doing. So instead, I got it fixed. It was ready to go up into the woods, and I was able to go and hike around the mountains and have a weekend with a couple of my boys, and it was great. And so sometimes the I can do it myself definitely gets in our way of instead of hiring the right person or reaching out to the right person for whom that's really easy to do and can save us time and effort so that I can focus on the things that I like to do even more. I like working on cars, but I don't like it as much as I enjoy spending time with my family and hiking in the woods. And so why not spend time on the highest priority things instead of the low priority things?
Absolutely. So, well, we've talked about how we're working on getting the app out, and we just got through another step of the process, but it actually gave you an option, right, of this next part that you had to do. It said either book an app submission call or you can do it yourself, right? It'll take this much time. I was like, you know what? I'll just do it right now and get it done. And then I was like, you know what? They're offering me the option that I can jump on a call. Like, let me just do this. So I scheduled. The guy got on, and it took him 10 minutes to do everything. And he was just like opening all these different windows and boop, 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 right? And I'm like, I don't understand any of what's happening, but cool.
Right.
And
you would have had to have watched a YouTube video for each step to be,
yeah.
Okay, now what's the option that I want to do here? I'll have to look it up, watch a YouTube video, and be like, oh, okay, I think we want this option.
Absolutely.
And yeah.
And so it was not only like, was it done quickly, right? There were a couple of things, and then he gave me direction, like, these are the things that you need to do, X, Y, and Z. And so one, like, not only was it done quickly, two, and this is another component that we often don't think of in the I can do it myself mindset, is I didn't have to worry about missing a step or maybe having done something wrong that I wasn't aware of, right? I didn't know what I didn't know. In this case, it was like everything was squared away. It was set up, it was submitted right, it was put in correctly, and all I had to do was just a few simple steps afterwards. And it was just this smooth process. And then he said, now it's in our hands, and if there's anything we need from you, we'll reach out to you. And that was so nice for me because it's like, okay, well, this thing's done. Like, it's off my plate. It's not taking up mental energy. And that's, again, another thing that we don't think about is yes, there's time. But two, just in addition to the time, like the mental energy, the worry, the mind space that some of those things take up, when we can just have someone that we can trust that knows how to do it well, or can just give us those steps so we don't have to spend hours and hours watching YouTube videos and looking for obscure references and things like that. And so I think that's a really crucial one that Cameron, like he said, he and I are both still learning, right? All of these things is that process of trial and learning that we always talk about.
Totally. And so that's one of the things that I think is important too to think about is on your journey of growth, as you're trying to make progress and learn in your own life, learning according to a pattern or according to a plan, I think is so critical. We see this in business all the time where companies grow faster than they were prepared to grow, and it sinks them. So like froyo places, this happens in Utah. I feel like every 10 years, there's a new froyo chain that just blows up and everybody goes and it's so good. And so they put one on every street corner in every town. And then that company goes under because they grew faster than they could control. And it's so common that you see that with, froyo places. Anyway, lots of businesses do this. That it's the Walmart syndrome where somebody signs up with Walmart and then Walmart says, "Oh yeah, let's go. Let's make a huge contract with them," and then that contract winds up being more than they can handle, and it puts the business out of business. Happens all the time, and so planned growth is so important that you don't grow faster. The what's the analogy? The top of the tree doesn't grow faster than the roots have strength.
Exactly.
Blows over in the wind type of a thing. So making sure your growth is planned, and that's true with our physical body as well, that we have to grow slowly and steadily and build our body up. And we see this all the time with kind of that stop skipping ahead idea is we'll put a plan in place for somebody and be like, okay, I want you to run 1 mile a week for the next 2 weeks, and then we'll bump it up to 1.5 miles, and then 2 miles, and then the next week after that 3 miles, but only bump up about 1 mile per week in your runs for the first little while. Otherwise, it's going to be too much too soon. And all the time, people will come back and be like, well, I was feeling so good. So I was able to run, 3 miles a day every day last week, and I felt so good. And so I decided to try 6 miles. And now the pain is back and it really hurts. It's like, ah. So just because you were feeling good at 3 miles, that was the threshold of where your body could handle right now. And you were doing that, and it was great. But you skipped ahead and you didn't stick with your plan of growth. And all of a sudden, you went beyond what your current capacity was to handle. And now we've had a backward step instead. And so now we're not as far ahead as we would have been. It feels like if I just jump ahead, that I'm going to be able to, skip all these weeks of growth. If I can, hit 6 miles, maybe 6 miles would be okay. And we wind up getting further ahead in the long run by sticking with our plan to growth than skipping ahead and then having it be too painful, and we actually wind up taking backward steps. And so I see that all the time. And froyo is good, Mark. Just depends on the type and flavor and what you put on it.
You gotta have full fat ice cream. You gotta have more fat.
I don't know. Anything cold and creamy tastes delicious, Mark. Mark put in if you're not able to see the chat, Mark put in the chat, is froyo good? Drop a 1 for yes and a 2 for no. I would agree it's not as good as ice cream, but it's so delicious. And if you put enough berries and nuts in it, it's delicious. So that's funny. Good, not great, Sam says. That's funny. So anyway, yeah, when we don't stick with our plan of our growth, and now there's still opportunities where you can get ahead, or there's hidden opportunities that come along that we have to evaluate to see if we really can grow that way. But especially with our physical body, skipping ahead winds up backfiring all the time. Um, yeah. Uh,
Well, and
oh, go ahead.
one of the things too is that when we don't have like a sketch of where we're headed, it's really hard to know what went wrong when something does go wrong,
Hmm.
right? If we're just kind of approaching our health or change haphazardly, then
Right.
it's like, oh, there's no benchmarks versus kind of Cameron's example, right? It's like, okay, I went on a 1 mile run, felt fine. Now up to 2 miles, felt fine, right? We're doing those benchmarks. We're checking in against kind of a set of criteria, right? How am I feeling? Is the pain predictable? Is
Mm.
it increasing day over day, right? It gives me some really solid benchmarks to compare my progress against and know like, yeah, I actually need to dial this area down, or you know what? I'm totally fine to dial this area up, or I could even try adding this in, right? And maybe together that'll actually help move me to the next level a little bit faster, but in a safe, progressive way. And so I think that's another big part of that is when we don't skip ahead, when we don't skip steps, then we have a lot more clear path to growth, and we can easily course correct and change things when problems arise.
Yeah. Oh, I think an important factor in that is defining what success is, what growth is, what those growth steps are. When we've defined what success is and what it looks like, then it's easier to measure whether or not we're succeeding, if that makes sense.
That's such a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we often don't define success for ourselves very well. And so we then always feel like we're we're missing the mark. We always feel like there's more to do, and it's because we can always be more successful, right? There's always forward strides we can take, even if we hit a goal. There's always a goal beyond that goal, right? Um, but by defining success, it helps us so that we don't rob ourselves of the momentum of the wins that we've made. Um, uh, when we define what success looks like, we're able to say, okay, what I'm doing is working. So if we define the fact that running, adding 1 mile in per week into somebody's running, and sticking with that for a week or sometimes 2 weeks, um, that's success. That's a good thing, and we're right on track. If we can define that for somebody and really encourage that, that's going to lead to more success, right? And hopefully lead to people being more content with it versus it, uh, defining success as being able to run a marathon. uh, that may be something that's so nebulous because there's so many steps in between where they're at and running a marathon. So it's like, yeah, let's build up. And if you can consistently add 1 mile per week in no time at all, you're going to be up to, fairly good mileage. But we just have to keep it consistent. We can't grow too quickly. And so, um, yeah, anyway, that's kind of the idea is how do we help people be consistent with their growth, and how do you help yourself stop hitting the hard button so you can grow consistently. We often sabotage ourselves by hitting that hard button instead. So that's what we want to avoid, and hopefully some of these things like not doing it ourselves, or doing those things that put us into hard mode, uh, we can avoid, and make sure that we're always hitting the easy button instead. One of the best things you can do is or help yourself by getting somebody that can help you stay on track. And hopefully we're part of that for you, but also other accountability partners, or we're finding the right who to help you do a task, things like that. Getting help so that you can do things not always on your own is so critical. And so, um, yeah, that way you can have success and hit the easy button more often instead of the hard button. Yeah, any final thoughts, Mark?
I would just say with all of these points, just ask yourself that question, right? Who can help me do this? What am I doing to play life on hard mode? And are there negative thoughts that I need to start weeding out, right? Asking questions about any of these areas can just help spur some ideas for the next best steps to take.
Yeah. Like, are these thoughts true? Like you said before, is a great question to ask yourself. Like, is this just me having a pity party or are these thoughts really true? And if you do come to the conclusion that they are true, maybe that's time to make a change in that area. Find a 1% change that you can start making and hold yourself consistent to make a change there, if that really is true. But more often than not, most of our negative thoughts are not true. We just like to beat ourselves up. Anyway, awesome. Thanks so much for joining this morning. The froyo debate rages on, even though everybody says it's not as good as ice cream, which I agree. It's still delicious. Yeah, we look forward to seeing you on tomorrow night's call, and we'll probably not continue the debate about froyo, but we'll catch
Graham crackers. Graham crackers next.
Oh, there's no debate there. Graham crackers in the box are the exact same chemical formula. They're not good. All right, we'll see you later.
Thanks for listening to the Becoming Body Smart podcast. If you have questions, thoughts, or want to continue the conversation, reach out to us on our socials or join our community. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. It helps us bring you even more valuable content. Remember, sustainable health is a lifelong journey, and we're here to support you every step of the way. Live longer, live stronger, and become body smart.